Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're taking a look at something pretty significant happening with the family and a show many of you will know, Duck Dynasty. Yeah, we're digging into an exclusive report from People magazine. It just came out June 1st, 2025, and it lines up right with the premiere of the show's return, now called Duck Dynasty, The Revival. This article, well, it gives a really specific look into a moment from that premiere, but it also connects to some very sad news for the Robertson family. So our mission here is to unpack the key details from this source for you. What it tells us about the revival, a specific tribute, and the recent passing of the patriarch, Phil Robertson. We want you to have the clear picture.
Absolutely. And just to quickly set the scene for everyone, the original Duck Dynasty, you'll remember, was just huge on A&E. It followed the Robertson family, their lives, their work at Duck Commander, the duck call business, ran for 11 seasons, finished up back in 2017. But, the family didn't exactly vanish. They've had quite a few other shows and projects since then. Things like Going Sorrel, Jep and Jessica, Growing the Dynasty, At Home with the Robertsons, and Duck Family Treasure, too.
Right. They've definitely stayed visible. So when A&E announced in January that the main show was coming back, maybe it wasn't a complete shock. Rebranded as Duck Dynasty, The Revival. And this People piece confirms that first episode just aired, Sunday, June 1st, last night.
Yeah. Now, what makes this return, layered and honestly quite sad is the timing. It comes right as the family is mourning the loss of Phil Robertson. The People article states the family announced his passing very recently, Sunday, May 25th. He was 79. So that puts a very different sort of somber light on the show's return, doesn't it?
It really does. And the article also gives some important context about Phil's health before he passed away, information the family had shared earlier.
That's right. It mentions his battle with Alzheimer's. This wasn't brand new information, actually. His son, Jace, first spoke about it publicly on their family podcast, Unashamed with the Robertson Family. That was back in December 2024. Jace said then that his dad was, I think the quote was, in the early stages. But the People article points out that Jace later gave a tougher update. He explained the illness had accelerated and that it was causing problems with his entire body. Jace basically said Phil was just not doing well and really struggling.
Wow, that sounds incredibly difficult. The People source also adds a detail from Corey Robertson, Willie's wife. She mentioned Phil wasn't really speaking much towards the end. It's quite something to hear such, personal details about someone so well known.
It is. And the way the family shared the news, it really reflects that mix of being public figures, but also having deep personal faith. The article highlights some of their social media posts, how they announced his passing and shared their feelings. Jace, for instance, posted on X, very faith-focused. He said, "My dad has gone to be with the Lord today. He will be missed, but we know he's in good hands, and our family is good because God is very good. We will see him again." And his granddaughter, Sadie Robertson Huff, she posted a series of family pictures on Instagram, a very visual, loving tribute. Then Willie and his wife Corey, they put up a joint post on Instagram, again, expressing gratitude and faith. They wrote, "We celebrate today that our father, husband, and grandfather, Phil Robertson, is now with the Lord." And they thanked everyone for the love and prayers. They also mentioned plans for a private service first, then a public celebration later on. It's like a window into their grief, framed by that very public faith they've always shared.
Which really brings us back to the core of this People exclusive. That specific tribute, right there in the premiere episode of Duck Dynasty, The Revival. This is where the family's personal loss and the show's return really intersect.
Yeah, the article describes it as brief, but it sounds incredibly impactful. It happens right at the end of the June 1st episode. So the clip shows Willie Robertson, Phil's son. He's sitting in the living room, looking at his laptop, reading something out loud. Sounds like he's setting up some kind of challenger game for the show. Willie says, "So, ladies and gentlemen, start your engines. Only one will earn the bandana, so let the games begin." Standard show stuff,
Right.
But then, according to People, Willie tunes directly to his dad, Phil, who's presumably there with him, and he asks him, "What do you think, Phil?"
Okay.
And Phil's response, given everything we just discussed about his health and not speaking much, he just gives a big thumbs up. Yeah. And Willie's reaction is apparently immediate. He says, "Oh, that was awesome," and lets out this big, genuine laugh. Then the screen fades to black. A photo of Phil comes up with the text marking his passing, in memoriam.
And a single thumbs up. Knowing what Corey said about him not speaking much,
Yeah.
wow, that feels incredibly poignant. It's like this show, their public platform, found a way to acknowledge his passing, but also share one last authentic moment of him, engaging with them.
Exactly. It really elevates that moment, doesn't it? From just being a scene to being a significant tribute. It weaves his passing right into the fabric of this revival. And what's so interesting here looking at the source is how it captures this really complex intersection. You have a family dealing with deep personal grief. They're sharing these intimate details about illness, about their faith guiding them through goodbye. And at the same time, the TV show that made them famous is returning. And it includes this very specific, very moving on-screen farewell. It really underscores that unique experience of being a public figure navigating loss.
It does. It makes you think, doesn't it?
Yeah.
About how we connect as viewers with people whose lives we mostly see through a screen. We see the public persona, the characters on the show. But then moments like this, described in the article, reveal the very human, very private struggles underneath. That thumbs up. Especially knowing what the family shared about his health challenges. It becomes more than just a gesture. It feels like a final piece of communication almost.
Yeah.
A last interaction shared not just with his family, but with the audience that watched him for all those years.
Absolutely. It's a powerful reminder that even these larger-than-life figures face universal human experiences. Aging, illness, loss, it just happens in a much more visible way for them. The details in the article about the Alzheimer's diagnosis, the family's quotes about how he was struggling, they give that thumbs-up moment a real weight, a significance it wouldn't have otherwise. It transforms what might have been just a quick clip into a really touching farewell, built right into the show's return.
So looking back at this People exclusive, we've covered quite a bit. The return of Duck Dynasty as the revival. This specific, very touching tribute to Phil Robertson included right in the premiere. And the deeply sad context surrounding it, his recent passing after battling Alzheimer's, details the family themselves shared through their podcast and social media. It really paints a picture of a family moving forward on their public platform while simultaneously navigating a profound personal loss.
Right. And perhaps this deep dive leaves you, the listener, with something to think about. Consider how the public memory of someone like Phil Robertson, known for, let's face it, a very strong personality, specific views often shared quite publicly. How does that public image sit alongside these incredibly intimate details of his final struggles? The quiet battle with illness, his family's very personal, faith-filled goodbyes. What does that contrast, that duality, maybe reveal about the different facets of a person's legacy and the complex reality of mourning someone in the public eye?
That's definitely something to ponder. Thanks for joining us for this exploration on The Deep Dive.